Waking up the neighbors, to quote our other friend, Brian Adams. Still going. Canadian. I am not actually friends with Brian Adams, just in spirit. Welcome back, everyone. Artist Journal, March 3rd, 2025. Digressing, as ever, my name's Adrian Pocobelli. Broadcasting from somewhere out there, as the ancient philosophers called it, somewhere incorporeal. What is it? I saw some Odile Redon putting the logic of the invisible at the service of the visible, I believe, quoted by Ballard. J.G. Ballard in the annotations, in the extended annotations of the Atrocity Exhibition, which was published by V. Vale of Research Publications, a wonderful individual who, if you're in San Francisco, it's kind of worth tracking down Vale. Kind of a legend, a local legend, but actually quite well known in his own right. Anyways, let's go. endless digressions here on our Monday morning. So here, beautiful work here by Rat Cloak. I had bookmarked this to open the show. I was sent one. Thank you, Pinstake. Very nicely sending one there. So 30 Tezos sold out. So, of course, it's always kind of, I don't want to dance around it. I don't want to overemphasize it either. Of course, Rat Cloak out of Ukraine, right? And it's always hard to kind of separate in the last 2 years, or however long it's been. I guess we're going on 3. It's kind of amazing how long we've been around. I mean, we have a tweet from Salawaki. It's been 4 years since I was, first minted on Hen. And so, because, we knew Rat Cloak's work before. So it is interesting when you see works like this by Rat Cloak. It's hard not to associate the situation. I mean, and it could be wrong on my part, but, here it looks like this barren, burnt out landscape, and this almost looks like some soldier who's escaped and is kind of wandering almost like a wolf or a coyote, wandering off, feeding himself, on whatever can be found. Beautifully done kind of sky here, kind of smudged out, and everything. And again, interestingly, from a technical point of view, Photoshop brushes, painted in Photoshop, as Rat Cloak always mentions here. That's what that is, Photoshop brushes, which he's been using for at least, I want to say, year and a half. Maybe 2 years. It's possible. Could be longer, actually. But I do remember when he started using them. And he seems to be using 2 different ones. I keep going back here. You see, probably to get some contrast, you see the outline here of what looks like almost like a charcoal or like a oil stick type thing, as you see in the black there. And then a second kind of brush, which is more of what you might consider a traditional kind of painterly brush. So it's kind of interesting in terms of the process. Here you see this kind of beautifully rendered figure here. What's kind of interesting about it, maybe it's photographic, maybe it's not. Like maybe Rat Cloak is just getting to the point where he can just kind of knock this off, this kind of rendition of a face. And almost like this, El Loco, as the people call Rat Cloak, and you can see the sun is coming. Spring is coming out here. You can see it's almost like a crazy, there is an element, it's tempting to read into this. There is an element of perhaps just a little bit of madness here. With the figure here just kind of happily finding some food maybe. Because put it this way, a surprisingly kind of happy expression here, you might say. In this, again, burnt out landscape. So, I've said it before here. Interesting hand. I've said it before here. Look how beautifully done this is. Great digital painter, I might add as well. I've said it before here. As far as, and again, I don't know. I'm just speculating out loud here. But as far as artists who have captured, let's say, the Ukraine war, this has to be, digital or physical. If you asked me, like, what artist has captured it, it's not even I don't even know what number two would be. And maybe that's my own limitations. But someone who I feel very undidactically, this isn't overly literal art, is it? Maybe it has nothing to do with everything I said, right? Maybe this is just, some coyote wolf guy, half wolf, this kind of centaur of sorts. What would you call that? There is a word for where you join animals to people. There's kind of a more general word than, say, centaur or minotaur, the head of a bull with a human person. Picasso liked to do those. So kind of interesting in that regard as well. You see almost these metamorphoses, this surrealism, for lack of a better term, that exists in Ratcloak's work. We see it with all of a sudden there'll be a picture of a face awkwardly on the forehead or something, right? To call it surrealism seems like an oversimplistic way of referring to it. Maybe symbolism, not sure. Beautiful, though. Edition of 10. And again, thank you, Pinsteak, for sending me one of these. Very generous individual. So big shout out to Ratcloak. Stay safe. Ernesto Ash, thank you for... This is a pretty cool portrait. I think it's a portrait. New drop on the portrait series. It seems to be a portrait. Pocobelli, your edition has been delivered. A little thank you token for all you do. Gracias. Thank you, Ernesto. I believe out of Brazil, if I'm not mistaken. So very cool work. A nice addition to the museum in my mind. I could fill a couple of rooms in that museum just of the wonderful tributes and homages people have done. This is it on Object, Artist, and Broadcaster 10. So thank you for sending me that, and thank you for doing this. Very cool work here. Love the color. It's beautiful. I also love how it's kind of half abstract. And all of a sudden it's like now, I couldn't even see, but all of a sudden you see my face here and there. So anyways, big thank you. That's awesome. Let me just make that bigger and showcase the shows as we go down through yesterday's comments for a sci-fi synthesis. Really enjoying that. And we're going to see more of our sci-fi synthesis in this episode. Lots of comments here. Tornado, thanks for showing the Zero Contractors drop. Oh, my pleasure, Tornado. Very cool. I picked up a couple of works. I picked up the fragments, and there was another one, the one with the running person. Was that Oblivion? That was brilliant. And anyways, lots of great works in that show. Forgive me. Here we go. Okay, so just a little technical difficulties on our Monday morning here. Kujeb, pleasure was all mine, so thank you. Happy belated birthday and wishing you an awesome year. So again, Kujeb, a.k.a. Waffles, sending me that. Is that a Genesis ordinal? The first ordinal that Waffles did. So that was awesome. So thank you. So anyways, it's all too much fun out here. What a fun individual. Very generous, too. King Wakeit, OMG, this is hilarious. This is all I was thinking about after yesterday's show. My voice is a little hoarse. I may cough a little bit. I have just a mini something. Maybe too much fun on the weekend here. Oh my God. So King Wakeit, this is so hilarious. I grew up watching the Barba Papas in Costa Rica. Talk about going down memory lane. I have to say I was so pleased, first of all, for my memory, and then for actually, frankly, I thought it was just so hilarious in my own mind as well that Barba Papa came up on the show. Bosque Gracias, love the Barba Papa connection. I was joking in my reply that we could have called it the show the Barba Papa connection. Hilarious. You guys are great. What a cool community. Roon Toon, I'm really connecting to the Scar Deck comment about critique engaging, responding to artists' work. Yeah, there's a lot on, I think, Jerry Saltz actually coming up here. You're obviously a great example of engagement with digital work, and it's incredible that through YouTube we have this huge catch of commentary leading us, or cache of commentary leading us through the timeline of art on the blockchain. The classroom critique is different than engaging with work on a public forum. That's an interesting point. Because in a sense, that's a very good point. It's a subtle point, but it's actually totally true. Context. Because in an art school, you're there to get better and to learn. So in a sense, there is more of, it is kind of being asked critique. Whereas in a public forum, nobody's, people aren't necessarily asking. Usually they're not. The classroom critique is different than engaging with work on a public forum, but I think the best way to operate is not to be a critic at all. I'm reminded of someone's comment in a Bill Cunningham documentary talking about fashion photography, that when Bill photographs you, it's glorious, but if he doesn't photograph you, it's worse than death. Famous, I believe, New York photographer. Bill never made mean-spirited or even negative commentary about his subjects. He simply engaged with the world of fashion around him. Jerry Saltz and a lot of food critics like Pete Wells have terrible form when they belittle other people's work. Yeah. I mean, that's my sense too. And some people are like, oh, you haven't read the book, which we'll get to in a second. And so it's actually, he talks about, how he's a failed artist and he's made all these works. And I haven't read everything that Jerry Saltz has done. Like, I base it on mostly the tweets and what I've seen in public. I've also watched, though, an interview on YouTube, let's say 2 or 3 years ago. And I was actually impressed with how kind of, I don't know if I'd say gracious, but towards graciousness that Jerry Saltz was, considering what happens on Twitter. Some people have compared it to on Twitter, it's like WWF and this sort of thing, I guess. But sometimes just, again, unsolicited criticism, which he's given. I can't remember the name of the artist, but it was sort of like, works almost like minotaurs and this person doing classical work who had a nice big audience, and then Jerry Saltz just kind of raining on his parade. That's what I kind of associate with Jerry Saltz, unfortunately. And again, it's not a black or white issue. It's not all, there's different shades of gray here. We'll discuss it more. K-Town Crypto King, Reloaded. Thanks for being a good sport. Appreciate it. Thank you. Otto Noodler, as always, love the commentary and the art. Worth pointing out, Saltz did try and make art for about 20 years. He's a failed artist, and he'll be the first one to tell you this. The art itself speaks volumes of who he is. He struggled with self-doubt over-intellectualized the work. Perhaps the perfect seg to becoming a writer and critic. I appreciate his voice, but I don't appreciate his centralization of power. Yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, again, I kind of see it as part of this, what do we call it? Artist-industrial complex of sorts, where it's sort of like, we're going to focus on 3, if not 1 AI artist at the expense of everybody else. We're going to have 1 art critic or 5 art critics that we care about what they have to say with art, and everybody else, just forget about them. Like, it's this, to the person's point about the centralization of power, like, this is kind of what the art world does. And if you're kind of in the club, you're set for life and everything's great, but that's basically 0.001%. And I guess my issue with that is it doesn't reflect the reality of the truly substantial discussions that can happen outside of the 5 people we're going to care about for AI art, or the 5 people we're going to care about for talking about art. So it's just, to me, it's not, that's ultimately the issue, is it doesn't reflect well reality and real discussion, in my opinion. So I kind of take the point on the centralization of power, and, I do, and again, I'm kind of back to the title. Evelyn O mentioned this, and I'm like, I can't get over the title of How to Be an Artist. I would, someone was mentioning to me over the weekend, you should write a work called How to Be a Digital Artist. I'm like, that's like the last thing on earth I would ever want to do. And maybe it's a good book, and maybe it's just very practical, like how you get a gallery and how you should think about it and whatever. But again, if I'm a failed plumber and I'm starting to tell people writing books on how to be a plumber, I mean, does that make sense? I'm still kind of, and maybe it's just like a publishing house that's saying, listen, Jerry, I think, we think this can sell, but all I know is, what I imagine in my mind when I think of that book? I think a Christmas Day, and some relative thinks, oh, I'll get this because this person's an artist. And how condescending it would feel to be given you're an artist in the family, and then you're given a thing of how to do this. And maybe it's all done in good spirit and everything, but I just think, if there can't there be one place where we're not being told what to do? A lot of people, and again, maybe I'm making too much of that title of How to Be an Artist, but I mean, a lot of the reason why people make art for different reasons. One of the reasons a lot of people make art is because it's a place of freedom where people are not telling them what to do. And so to have a book saying, this is what you have to do this, like, do real poets, like, are they looking to be told what to do? Like, and I wonder, has anybody who read that book applied it and succeeded? Like, and maybe they have. I don't know, but I just go, yeah. So let's continue here. Interesting name here. Don't know where I am. I am but me likey. Well, thank you. And always, it's a beautiful thing about YouTube here is we keep on, people come across us. So welcome. Many letters. Skull Takes, great show. Thanks for highlighting the On-Chain Abundance show. You're welcome. Very beautiful works in there. Jerry Saltz is hit or miss for me. However, he did at one point make art, even making a series on Dante's Inferno. I thought you might get a kick of watching him critique his own art. So, again, everybody's free to do his thing. So he's free to do his thing. I haven't seen that. I haven't looked. I didn't want to have to do a bunch of research either. Like, I'm basing it... I feel like I've seen enough about Jerry Saltz where I can form an opinion. I do not claim to have the last word on it, and I don't think I have anything close to the last word. I think people have read his books and whatever. But I also don't want to feel like I have to read all his books to say anything about him. I've seen enough. I've had enough Jerry Saltz in my life to have an opinion of some kind that I can voice here. But, so... people are free to think, and I'm kind of free to think. I don't want to have to research and spend days of my life going through Jerry Saltz's work to have to, I'm not trying to come up with a definitive critique here. I'm just giving my reflections. This is a journal. Continuing on, thank you for the comments. And thank you for actually just filling in the gaps there. Good to know. Absurdity, a belated congratulations on 400 plus episodes, Adrian. You're welcome. A big collector here and artist on the blockchain. It's been quite the week for me, so I'm just now getting around to catching up, both with you, your more recent and older episodes, up to episode 122 now. It's going to get tricky around this point because those 1.5 hour episodes, my God, they went on for a while. I'm glad to hear that you plan to upload the prior spaces to Spotify or other podcasting platforms, as there are many I'd love to listen to, but don't know how to find them on X. Indeed, and they are there. But now that I'm taking a break from the spaces, Roon Toon and I, at least till September, let's say, is kind of our working idea. And there will be exceptions to this. I probably do a space in the next couple of weeks with the gallery, which maybe will launch as soon as Monday. So there will be spaces. But what I hope to do with the extra time is actually start uploading the incredible library we have before all of a sudden they disappear or something, stuff that happens to you, right? So before all of a sudden we can't get them on X anymore. So I am on it. I've been on it for a while, but now I'm going to have a little more time. Admittedly, I'm not expert in spaces, but I do know that the X search function leaves much to be desired. Indeed, even for me to find them can be tricky. Thank you for the comment and the good wishes. Retro Manny, I don't usually do this, but first comment, awesome. Congrats, Manny, and awesome to hear from you. Jan Lucas Magon, looking good, Pocobelli, thank you. I do my best out here. And Denise Sanchez, beautiful. Nice to hear from you. I see all these hearts. I go beautiful. Yoda, nice show, Adrian. Thank you. And here is BBC sold. Thank you very much, Absurdity. So I've been seeing this posted around the comments for a while. I think this is on Bitcoin, but I'm not sure. So playing with money. So interesting. Feel free to point. Hey, Suksu. Feel free to point. Feel free to post in the community. Rad work, Suksu. Just want to make sure I respond to Suksu, who's the artist of that we started the show with. Just a rad artist. And I think, let me just bring... It is Monday morning out here, my friends. Okay, awesome. So continuing on, Martin Joe, thanks for featuring my Sexy Pixels piece. I just inscribed another one. Awesome, I didn't even see that. Amazing episode as always. Thank you, Martin, and thanks for keeping me updated. Again, feel free to post in the community if you haven't. Justum Zero, appreciate the shout out. The collection was a lot of fun. So this is the Justum Zero, the on-chain show we were discussing, and I appreciate the amazing artists involved. All of the items are listed for sale now, and more of the community artists are still adding their artwork. Awesome. It's so Reina, thanks. Great to hear from you. Ernesto Ash, thank you for the mention. You're welcome, and thank you for the piece. Here's Evelyn O. Adrian Jerry Saltz's book is actually about his own struggles of being an artist. So I admittedly have not read it. Talks quite a lot about his failing in interviews, so it's life experience and meant to encourage rather than telling people he he doesn't know anything, something he doesn't know anything about, and you'll understand his Instagram posts a bit more. I guess I felt like there was kind of like a overly defensive view of Jerry Saltz, though. You know, because let's be real, in my opinion, let's be real. He comes out and he throws punches all over the place from what I have seen on X. So he's not the humble little guy just saying, oh, I'm a big failure all the time, whatever. He's going out unprovoked, unsolicited, saying this basically sucks. Okay, and that's what I'm talking about. And frankly, that's what 90% of the people see. There's how many people are reading his books? Like, of the people that know who Jerry Saltz is, like maybe 0.05%. So I'm basing it on kind of the general impression that Jerry Saltz has created himself. So all of this, like, oh, he's so humble and everything, like, it's kind of like, I don't buy that. I mean, you're free to think what you want, Evelyn, but I don't buy that at all. Just because at other places he says, oh, well, he gives, look, I was a big failure and blah, blah. Sure, I saw the video too. Maybe it was for that book where, you know, and it was on YouTube and it's like fairly gracious, but it doesn't kind of erase everything else. So anyways, let's continue. It's actually quite moving to read him talk about it. And here's the book, My Life as a Failed Artist. Thanks for, so that's me. And then, so you can see, how can someone that isn't an artist tell others how to be an artist? Something along those lines, or even if he failed. I don't think it's only successful artists who can give other tips on how to become an artist, how to become artists. Right, but to me, it's just the whole, I would never in a million years ever allow a publisher to put my name on a book that says how to be an artist. I think it's as an artist, I find it offensive, frankly, and I'm kind of not easily offended. And that's the issue. I find it offensive that someone comes out and is like, how to be an artist. Like, for me, it's just like instant joke in my brain. Okay? Like, that's just like, clearly, you know what I say to myself is, clearly this person isn't an artist if they're trying to give a bunch of rules on how to, and maybe it's just the title, as I say here, that I can't get over. Okay? It could be that simple, because I haven't read any of it, so admittedly. But the title irks me. Think of a football manager. They can know what it takes to become a footballer, how to be a footballer, because they've seen a lot, maybe being a failed one themselves. I don't know if the analogy holds of a coach to a team. I'm not sure if the analogy holds. A coach to a team, but let's continue. So anyways, as I said here, thank you for the comments, Evelyn. Thank you for thank you for taking the time and writing the comments, and longtime watcher of the show. So great to hear from you, Evelyn. So as I said, we might have to agree to disagree on that one. Episode 401. And again, I don't claim to be an expert or having a definitive view on it. And I don't want to spend the time to have a definitive view. I've seen enough. I don't want to, I'm not interested in pursuing that, Chrome Void, but thank you for filling it in for my gaps here. Catching up here. This is super interesting. I think your take on Botto is right. So I was bringing up the whole issue. More iconoclasm here. More breaking of preconceptions and images here. So my point on Botto, if you haven't seen it, very quickly was... Botto seems to be a DAO, or a group of people that are making kind of collective decisions, so to speak, that creates an artwork. And this is we're being told that this is the greatest thing, or that this is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And what I was bringing up here was, if you take an analogy and you have a song that was built by a whole community of people, are you going to end up with a great work? With a great song, or, take it to another analogy, a DJ set, where everybody picks a song? Is that going to be a good DJ set? Probably not, right? So why is it okay? Why do we think this is brilliant in visual arts is my question. So Chrome Void responding, I think your take on Botto is right. Interesting to hear that. As far as I can tell, besides the misleading autonomous artist framing, the significance mostly comes from the DAO members themselves. Some of these members are big collectors, and many of them want to own the work after playing a role in its creation. To extend your DJ set metaphor, maybe everyone picking a song wouldn't lead to a good mix, but if a group of friends could collaboratively create a playlist together, they might enjoy listening to it much more than outsiders would because it reminds them of each other. Right, and that's kind of, I think you've nailed it. And I'm not an expert on Botto either. I hardly know how it works, right? I think I have a general idea, but I think that's basically how it works, right? Let's finish the comment and discuss further. So they might enjoy it than outsiders because they were part of the process to make it, right? Even if it isn't beat matched, mixed in key. This is an interesting thing, the mixed in key DJ sets. I'm not a huge fan on that, by the way. Even if it isn't beat matched, mixed in key explores all different seemingly random genres, musical themes, etc. So yeah, I think that's exactly what's going on here. Like, I think it's part of the nature of this scene being so small, or it's kind of back to the over-significance sometimes that is placed within the discussion of art on the blockchain of the financial side of it. So, okay, Beeple sells for 69 million. That's the highest any blockchain work has gone for. Beeple equals the best. I mean, that is ultimately Xcopy sells for this much, therefore Xcopy is number 2, right? And then oftentimes, though, it's just a small community of collectors bidding things up. And then you go like, okay, so these are oftentimes they're people who don't even necessarily have a huge background in art. Some of them, I'm sure, do. Some of them don't. And then we're going to start, writing Taschen books about this is the greatest stuff based on what some cryptocurrency speculators have to say about it and are willing to kind of pay. I think it's an interesting study of what people are willing to pay. But I do feel like there's a bit of a fabrication of a narrative that's going on through the financial side of it. And you saw that with the Beeple $69 million sale because it was some sort of, I don't know if it was a DAO, but some sort of token project where it's like they buy the work for $69 million, but then their token is worth $69 million because it's in their collection and then they can sell their tokens. And then it was kind of like this, smoke and mirrors, so to speak. So is that like, are we now as, clear-eyed, intellectuals and artists and collectors, are we now going to say like, yes, that is correct and that is the right, thing? Like, of course not. Right. So, and I think this is kind of analogous. It's like, okay, Botto's going for $150,000, I think, last one. It must be the greatest thing ever. Or like a very important thing. And it's like, I think it's debatable. Right. So anyways, thank you. Very interesting comment. As we continue running here, Cableen, also known as Ombeline, big shout out. We did a space with Ombeline. I know I'm no longer working for Object, so we've been hearing about this. And of course I follow Ombeline. That is a glitch on X when I open up, right click and open up a new tab. So I am no longer working for Object as my work ended this week. So we've been hearing about this last couple of weeks. I had an awesome time working with the team, and I know Object will continue to being awesome because it is in good hands. I would particularly like to thank the awesome curation team, Kika, Raquel, and Rob, and wish good luck to Rob, who joined Object recently. I am taking a break from Twitter this weekend. Thank you, everyone, for the kind words. I will focus on my health and work part-time from next week on, something exciting, which is awesome. I'm very sad that it is ending, but I'm at the same time very excited to be moving to the next adventure. So, I mean, Cableen, a.k.a. Ombeline, has been working at Object since I've ever kind of been aware of Object, and it's kind of incredible. Like, it's been around for a while, as we're going to see in our next post. So I'll just say big shout out to Ombeline, Cableen, and get well soon, and good luck, and keep us updated. And here's what I was talking about. Salawaki, 4 years ago, I minted my first work on Hen. 4 years ago. And so the time passed. That is quite something. What's going to happen at 10 years? Right? I minted my first work on Hic et Nunc, Hen, titled Pole, hilariously. Originally made for a group show in Minecraft during the pandemic, not knowing this place will change my life forever. And I believe Salawaki's out of the Philippines. We actually had her on a space, so I believe this is the first work. So very cool, and there's Walk. So awesome community here. As Jake Studios says, who of course I follow, getting better friends, appreciate all the messages. Maybe he's sick, so get well soon, Jake. Came here, I don't know that though. I just assume. Getting better, appreciate all the messages, came here for the art and the chance to monetize my digital stuff, stayed here for the community, love you all. That's quite beautiful, and I think it speaks to, I think a lot of people could relate to that. So we're having a lot of fun out here in blockchain land if you're watching from a distance, and you can always participate quite easily. I have a video now, how to put your art on Tezos, as well as Bitcoin. Justin Zero, who put out this show that we're looking at, Zero Contract Artist Studio. I thought this was interesting because I'm starting to see things on Instagram where art sales seem to be really drying up for kind of like I don't want to say the low end, but the what's not the high end blue chip stuff. It seems like liquidity is really starting to dry up. And so I think it's interesting as a point of contrast how well, here 850 Tezos brought in. And probably because the value is still here, unlike the very, arguably overpriced contemporary art market. I was looking yesterday with a friend at prices in a local blue chip gallery here, and I was like, you could remove a zero, as far as I'm concerned, to get to like closer to, for 98% of the works, except for one, which you could say, okay, maybe that one's worth that much money. The rest, I'd remove a zero, and I'd say that's about what I would value that at, interestingly. So here, has been fantastic with over 100 collectors and nearly 850 Tezos in volume, so maybe, $700 in sales. So not huge, but I mean, people are participating. Right? People are making money. It's cool with their digital artwork that really ultimately costs them very little to make once you have your, tools. Jedi Wolf, this is interesting too. I doubt that ETH will ever outperform Bitcoin as a store of value. And that's not really the goal. The goal is to become the world computer. And I'm excited about that. However, digital artifacts on ETH are the only crypto asset class that I can safely assume will outperform Bitcoin as a store of value. Digital artifacts, what I often call digital objects here. It's interesting, this conversation here, because I still would argue is the only, persuasive use case for crypto I have seen so far and I love Bitcoin and I believe in Bitcoin. But the only really persuasive case, the most persuasive case I've seen for the existence of crypto is what I call digital objects, what are sometimes called NFTs. And it doesn't have to just be art, but buying and selling digital objects in a credible way. I don't see even money transfer can be theoretically done with a bank. It's not as easy. You have to talk to people. It's a pain. It's much easier to do Bitcoin, but you can do it, right? Whereas you actually need crypto for buying and selling digital objects. So and everything else, and you can start making the argument for identity. There's all sorts of, use cases that start to build, but really the core to me is basically what what Jedi Wolf is kind of alluding to here is digital objects. And of course, those are probably, it's art has been the main use case, digital art. So interesting. Here's Sui Soichi, I believe, trolling a little bit and doing a bit of satire. But this is actually a super interesting idea, which is why I bring it up here. NASA and Microsoft are collaborating in the creation of a mouse with 3 click buttons and a third color option on Microsoft Paint. So I don't think that's true. I sure hope it's true. So I don't need to waste so much time changing colors, and I can create 3% more works before I die, thanks to the whole team. So I think it's being satirical or trolling a little bit. But I kind of thought to myself, it's not a terrible idea. Like, for those that have worked with, say, Pro Tools, I haven't worked with Pro Tools, but I've seen the images on the net, and they kind of have their own keyboard. It's like done with colors and everything. It kind of got me thinking, like, maybe there should be a special mouse, and we're kind of back to painting with a computer, right? And maybe the mouse should be upgraded, or there should be an art mouse. It's actually a brilliant idea, Sui Soichi. Luke 500, and it's funny. I'll just read this. One of my best friends is looking for paintings in his new house. I suggested he also consider an official limited edition sunflower. So, excuse me. I saw this on the Lego website, and I have to say, excuse me, I'm going to drink some water here. Another rare appearance, a cameo of the water in this week's episode. As you see here, I thought quite well done. I don't know, what I love about this is how they almost do the texture here. They do the texture with the Lego things. So it kind of has the feeling of a textured painting. Quite brilliant. And I saw this on the Lego website, and they have all sorts of paintings. And I was going to bring it up. I just haven't got around to it. But maybe I'll bring up the Lego shop next episode or soon. So anyways, I'm glad you brought that up, Luke 500. I've been thinking about it. That's hilarious. Sabato's computer is broken. Thank you for everything. So now back to pen and paper and a little bit of color here, which is always good. It's always healthy to go back and forth. A lot of ideas can come using these classic pens. Very cool. Jake Studios, Dead Studios. So also doing some physical work here. So cool to see. It looks like on a canvas, interestingly. Cider, also some physical works on TVs here. Nice display on these. Are these cinder blocks? What do you call them? So interesting there. And here Uxie with an update on the screen print. So 2 colors, quite beautiful. And excuse me. This is quite beautiful too. And so we see different variations here. A little bit of blue on that one of this kind of, I don't know if you call it a demon, but you'd often find them on the edges of churches. There's a word for it, which escapes me this morning. So here we are back to ordinals and back to waffles on ordinals. So inscription number, so a new one, excuse me. Here, rain or shine, I am here, my friends. Thank you for your patience. So here, new work by Waffles. It was listed on Gamma. Interestingly, started descending price auction, and then canceled it. Maybe someone wanted to buy it because it was transferred. So someone spotted it. And interestingly, unlike Object, when you, like, we can't even get to Hasdrubal. Gamma could use just a little bit more. They need some people from who use Object to kind of maybe give them some advice. It's a little hard to find people. And it's also like here, now it's owned by the collector, but you wouldn't know how to get to Hasdrubal Waffles without maybe going to the activity. And where's the activity? Anyways, I don't want to get distracted by this, but it's a little hard to navigate sometimes. In the search, Hasdrubal Waffle won't show up. Right, it's only, I think, partner artists and all that. And big shout out and thank you to Gamma. I joined, I got in. It's a partner artist here. Anyways, cool work here. Here it is on Ordiscan, a little bit bigger version, 86 kilobytes, so a bigger work. Looks like it sold, was transferred probably privately, and that is the 100% size. So 86 kilobytes. So we continue to see waffles on Bitcoin, and one imagines these are still custom-made tools, DeepSeek Python, perhaps. So super interesting here. Here's another one. So it continues, actually. This is owned by Hasdrubal Waffles, so no title here. Sometimes I'll put the title in the, you can put it in the metadata if you want to have a title. And here, so when Waffles makes one, it appears here, but if he sells one, it'll disappear. Another thing they could probably update is the difference between, like, if you made it, maybe it still would show up here. So you could, put an offer in if someone else owns it, right? This sort of thing. So this work is 42 kilobytes. And again, kind of like, I don't want to call it a minimal Waffles, but kind of maybe low res, for lack of a better term. I don't know if that's the right, kind of a pixelated, smaller Waffles, right? That's the regular size. It's like a Google ad, right? I mean, it's amazing, right? But it still works, and you could probably keep making it larger and larger, it seems, right? It's all, so again, a way of getting your work on fairly cheap. And that was only, I think, 42 kilobytes. The mempool is it's still around 2 V-bytes. It goes up to 5 sometimes, I think this morning, but generally it's around 1 or 2 V-bytes these days. So if you put in 2 or 3, you'll likely get through. Here's another one. Again, no title. So cool work here. This is 45 kilobytes. So kind of classic Waffles work, adjusted for Bitcoin, as we see here. So smaller file size, dictating certain outcomes, interestingly, which is a very fun way to work, because a lot of us like, the pixel sort of thing. So it's fun to work with it, and just very fun. It's amazing how small those files can be with all the animation in it. I haven't done too many GIFs. So anyways, so it looks like at least one selling there. Let's continue. So Elna Frederick, I think this is new, March 5th. This is on Verse. So Elna Frederick is pretty, I'd say, been around on Object and Hen and Tezos for a while. kind of, and does very kind of defined kind of work with this often flashing look and this illusion, really, that it kind of looks like the merry-go-round or the carousel continues to move. But I mean, powerful work, actually. And you see it here. That is all an illusion. It looks like everything's moving, right? So that is on Verse, and what is happening, I think, starting bid of 622. So interesting there. Here's Sabato. Of course, I follow. This is Borb, so I think using Fanavision. If I'm not mistaken, we see the familiar animations, maybe playing with a kind of goose and different kinds, and looks like masking, interestingly. So cool experimentation there from Sabato. Borb. Here is Kareem Safa, Celestial 11. So this just came out. We saw the other 10 came out as a series. So I wonder if this is for people maybe that collected all 10, maybe a kind of incentive of sorts, because I don't think, yeah, so maybe those are the people, I'm guessing, I don't know, but I'm guessing those are the people who were probably sent it. So Celestial 11, here's by Kareem Safa, here's Kennick Zapata. So a couple of more of these collectors, and it's interesting to see it get even more kind of painterly over time here. These edges and almost more paint drips, and it's quite gorgeous and original and beautiful. So more interesting work. Kind of looks like a TV and maybe a work on an old retro TV. This person seems to be coming out of the frame here, but maybe they're just a collector in the studio. Kind of ambiguous. So La Turbo Avedon. So he's after a couple of Commodore Amiga computers for an exhibition of 1980s art. So just a very cool series here. Here's an edition of 1. The last one was an edition of 11. And this is, he doesn't consider him a collector, but rather a tastemaker. So just again, in this kind of collector's series, these interesting profiles, people showing their work. This was unlisted so far. Here's Cider with a pretty cool cat here, just putting it on, again, nice response here, putting it on X, as you see here. All the wonderful textures of Cider's work, again, going from digital to physical and back. We had a great space with Cider. I'll make sure that that is posted sometime soon. So it looks like a cat, doesn't it? So cool work from Cider. Here's Skamra. Quite a beautiful landscape here. Just checking the time here, and beautiful color. We know that Skamra does kind of a negative prompting oftentimes for the color. And again, these beautiful subtle shades here on this mountain. Beautiful landscape from Skamra. This was interesting. Josh, of course, I follow Josh. I follow everybody here. Mickey's GAN. This was from 2021, but a pretty cool work. And it's weird how Mickey Mouse works so well, doesn't it? Pretty cool. Minted May 20th, 2021 on object.com. Nice AI artwork. I assume Mickey's GAN, so it sounds like AI artwork. Lily Illo, one of my favorite DALI outputs forever. Happy Sunday, my friends. So quite interesting, and I can see why. These beautiful textures here. Kind of looks like an old photo. You almost have to look up close, and then all of a sudden you see all of these, what I call AI distortions at work here. And the beautiful painterliness of this work and the great color. Like a faded photograph. So beautiful work from Lily Illo, and here also beautiful work from Lily Illo. So back, posting a lot of work on X. I'm not sure if any is being minted yet. I think, just posting. Here, who is this? Jose Narciso, GM friends. So you see the responses that are coming here. Like if you have a cool work, and you don't put a link, and you just kind of keep it small to like GM, you can go pretty far, interestingly. So here, a kind of cool plane, looks like AI art to me. I'm not positive, interestingly. It's not as obvious as it used to be, but it seems like it, doesn't it? Here's Neural Divine, another AI artwork, just great painterly textures here. Painterly digital textures, and here, almost just a parking lot. Pretty weird here. Isn't it? Like when you really look at the image, is that a tree that's kind of cropping the image? Probably. Almost like a photographic work. Kudukola, Picnic Me. I was starting to wonder if Kudukola is incorporating AI. It is hard to tell, but it's starting to kind of look that way, doesn't it? Again, it's getting hard to tell, but you look at all of the detail in the frame, it kind of looks like it. So interesting hybrid, seemingly. It's almost like a Kudukola work was put into AI and then kind of redone, but it doesn't say, so I'm not sure. Scammer picked it up for 10 Tezos, edition of 1. Here's a new work by M. Suksu, picked up by Deggy D for 112 bucks. Sorry, 112 Tezos, $96. Auction starting at 113. And so basically, I think it went, not exactly sure what happened here. Maybe it was listed, not sure. Either way, another kind of big narrative space work from Suksu. As we like to say here, kind of in the spirit of an echo of Barba Papa, perhaps another title for today's video. Cerca de las Estrellas. Very cool from M. Suksu. Great to see them on Tezos there. 30 Minutos de Sol. So that sounds like 30 minutes of sun by PP Universal. I like this piece quite a bit. Again, PP often using patterning to basically create through outline. You could see it as kind of analogous somewhat to what Yuri J does, but quite different at the same time, but almost creating outlines and then using patterning and that sort of thing. Of course, Yuri J often is started to go beyond the outlines, or often does go beyond the outlines anyways. Kind of an interesting painterly kind of minimal work here from PP Universal. Here's Dan Control. Speaking of minimal, kind of conceptual minimal work here. A cigarette and a gradient, and I guess that is the smoke. And is that an electronic cigarette? Very cool from Dan Control as ever. Nov 1914 with a few plants and flowers here. Diggy D picking up this piece for 32 Tezos. So nice kind of floral arrangement here. Classic kind of lines by Nov 1914. Frame above and below. So cool variations here. Here's Plantus 3, edition of 1. Diggy D also picking this one up for 23 Tezos. Interesting price difference. And here is another one, Planta 4. Mr. Bezold picking this up for 30 Tezos. So cool arrangements here. Plants by Nov 1914. This one's still available for 30 Tezos here and playing with what looks like berries or some sort of small flowers. And here's another one, Plantus 2. And slightly different colors here and almost like palms. So just a wonderful artist. When you get in the groove, when you're making a ton of work, this is what happens. Everything starts to work. You start to release everything because everything starts to work, I would argue. And then you're just knocking stuff off and then they just become iterations. And from a collecting and even just for lack of a better term, scholarly point of view, it starts becoming interesting. Because you see this person is exploring a process, right? And so we're back down to being super productive. Being prolific and its benefits. It's a much funner way to be an artist, being prolific. So, according to my opinion here, Souls, Fortune Tree. So fun kind of gradient work here, kind of abstracted, tree. Very interesting here, as usual, from Souls. Zwozo, this was picked up by Neon Monk, laid down, looking up. And we have some volume here. And we will try and play it again. Kind of a more abstract work. So laying down, looking up. I think there was one we saw from almost looking up from a sewer, I want to call it, or something like that. Anyways, laid down, looking up. Edition of 1, going to Neon Monk for 180 Tezos. So nice price. Sui Soichi, Quintessence Phantom. Beautiful work here by Sui Soichi, kind of pixel art meets but with texture. And pretty interesting pixel art as ever, isn't it? Pretty nice. I don't even know what this is, but I like it. Just very interesting work. Quintessence Phantom, kind of maybe a perfect title there. Edition of 7, unlisted. Element Lee, let's see if we can make that bigger. Flowers Grass. Is interesting composition here as usual from Element Lee. We have another one here, Lake. Interesting title, a little bit of an echo here of what looks like an aquarium. Small aquarium, again, 256 pixels, probably square. Here's Hermipe, pixel art. So kind of looking like it's for a magazine or something, but it's kind of like conceptual art. It is. CPRA News Review. So doing the cover with their pixel art, I believe out of Tokyo. I love how the face isn't done. Always like a dilemma, and I think had the face been done, it'd probably be a weaker work. That can often happen. The face can kind of, especially if you're working in low resolution like this, So anyways, interesting work. Nice patterning here. I love the musical theme. I should do some music. I guess I do musical works with the synths. Hermipe pixel art. Here's another one. Releasing a few things here. Not exactly sure what this is, but another kind of a landscape here by a pixel artist. Hermipe pixel art. Here's another one. Hair Official. Also looks like a merry-go-round. And I think Hair, I looked up their Instagram. It's like a fashion. So a lot of kind of corporate collaboration, shall we say, with Hermipe, but which is super cool and interesting. Here, pixel art plant, so maybe a early kind of interesting outline version. Is this a window into their process? Not sure. Interesting. And so cool works from Hermipe pixel art. Here's Plus Was Gamma with more just cool, simple. Maybe not so simple. It works 159 likes, getting a nice response here. And here's a still. This is on Instagram. I don't know if it was minted anywhere, but it's pretty cool. Here's Ed Woods. This was picked up. This was a 1 of 1, 30 Tezos. I think it's on chain. And that looks like the river god that is in, with a phone, hilariously, that is in Rome at the Capitoline Museum. There's probably a few of them, actually, but there's the main one, I think, is in Rome there. Classic sculpture, famous, Ed Woods, so nice sale for Ed Woods. Kyle Flemmer, Spacewalk. So more on-chain artwork. You see how many works are on-chain? It's an interesting development. Like we're seeing a lot of Tezos that are appearing on this show. You're seeing all the Bitcoin stuff. It's pretty interesting. So cool, kind of more shuttle work from Kyle Flemmer. So I assume that'll be listed, if not already. Muji with an interesting piece. Deluxe Paint, kind of a smaller work. Interesting move at the bottom here. Nice contrast with the color in the black and white. Interesting, kind of original looking work. That looks like it was burned. So there may be a new version. Here's Noodler after the fall. Interesting piece here. So kind of like trees, almost just like a landscape here. Kind of has almost an impressionist composition a little bit. And so interesting piece. I don't know if this is going to be listed on Object sometime soon. Here's Mech, who of course I follow, red and blue work. I'm not sure if I've seen this one. So just adding this in, this kind of trademark red and blue look or palette. Renato, quite like this. I thought this was brilliant. The almost like Mario bricks here, and then the window, and then the computer with the animation in it, and everything else still. Quite a brilliant composition here, isn't it? Fabulous work from Renato Marini. Here's Stalamir, Guidance, again, kind of sci-fi pixel art. So looks like leading almost a Lord of the Rings type situation here, but in the future and done with pixel art. So interesting piece here. Edition of 33 for 444, and how many are left? 9 left. So 9 to go. Here is, not sure how to pronounce their name, Omega Genesis, starts with S, and this is an edition of 20, and I think this sold out. Has it? It has, I believe. Omega Genesis. So interesting piece here, kind of celebrating video games. Kind of has that pixel art factory, but looks like circuit board. It's like circuit board meets pixel art factory. Very cool. Here's Quampa, Untitled Drawing, MS Paint. So I think we're seeing continued evolution here. Look at how well this is doing. 17,000 views, and just very small title, and off we go. Quampa has a pretty big following, too. It should be added. I love my boyfriend so much. So Ezra Eslin with a new piece. Kind of looks like a fashion show. And it almost looks like a Victoria's Secret fashion show with the wings, doesn't it? And then dragging the boyfriend through the fashion show, kind of satirical violence is basically, I think, one way of describing Ezra Eslin, edition of 25, and I don't think this has been listed yet. This is Tornado Rodriguez, also in the same show, Are You Weird Enough? Among Weirdos. This is done using MS Paint 98, so interesting, slightly different color here. Almost, I don't know if it's white, but it's almost black and white, or maybe soft beige, not sure. Interesting piece, beautiful drawing here by Tornado Rodriguez, and that is unlisted. Edition of 18. Really cool work here by Bosque Gracias. Makina de Luz, edition of 1, 10 Tezos. I love this piece. I almost started with this piece. I adore this piece. It is film. I should buy this piece. It is film. It's celebrating the visual delight of the film canister sort of, holes, so to speak. Forgive me, it's Monday morning. Brilliant. Brilliant. And it's kind of like this almost abstract conclusion to a certain degree of Bosque-Gracia's work, where we'll often see these kind of negatives that have been kind of juxtaposed. Still beautiful as ever here. Edition of 1, so nice editions of 1 for 10 Tezos here. A few being released. Here's number 11. Juxtaposing machinery and plants, cool juxtaposition, even the dark and the light negative. And here's another one, turning things over a little bit. Very, very cool. I always loved this series. And the beautiful reds there on the left, contrasting with the color. Wonderful, from Bosque-Gracia's Nebular Habitar. Now, this might be a huge GIF. So beautiful, what looks like analog video kind of textures. Not exactly sure. Kind of pixelated out, and so quite beautiful. Pre-processed and resolved analog glitch with Panasonic. And what do we have here? 3 sold at $633. And so still available. 7 left at $633 by Nebular. Here's Joda, all these textures making me transcend in the next dimension. And this is one of the beautiful things about this analog video glitch. You get these unique textures, don't you? And that seems to be one of the great values. And they're moving, too, in an interesting way. It seems to be one of the great values of analog video glitch. Here's another, what I like to call video painting. This is by DJ Kiro. Rusty quite loved this work here. Pink and green. So very nice piece here from Kiro, kind of looking like an abstract. And this is 3 Tezos, none sold. I'd make this a 1 of 1, Kiro, if you're watching. I'd make this a 1 of 1. Because I think... I was, because I was looking at this, it's beautiful work. If you do the math, I bet you could get more than 30. It would be my take as a 1 of 1, because, again, it's just a really beautiful work. Feels, so here, so Feels has a huge audience here. So cool, I'm not sure if this is new or old. Again, small title here, put out your work and watch the views come in is the hope. Renki, Iwakiri, so cool work as ever from Renki. Textured animated abstract, shall we call it. Desaturated, interesting. So back to black, whites, and grays. Edition of 1, unlisted. Oh, it was listed. An offer came in. Deggy D put in an offer. Often those are accepted. Who knows? Maybe it depends on the work, but yeah, that's often the way to do to get Renki's work. Here's Native Ed with a couple of crypto charts. Hilariously, in our last few minutes here, I should speed up a bit. So a couple of crypto charts turned into art here on Object. So interesting piece and almost sold out there. And here's the physicals, Temasaku. Quite a cool work here. Something about it. Maybe it's the Barba Papa feelings I've been having recently. Beautiful color, just kind of fun and innocent. Beautiful work here. And here's another interesting painting. This is Nicole. Who was that? Sorry, let me speed here in our closing minutes. That was Temasaku. Here is Nicole Kreischer. Interesting painting here. Kind of looks like a couple of feet, maybe a rug. Interesting. As mother and a psychiatrist or psychiatry. Kristen Hillerdy Gallery. This is Nancy Catagon. Interesting painting here. That is going to be in West Palm Beach in Florida. These were great. As we see famous record covers here. Velvet Underground, I guess Sgt. Pepper. It kind of looks like AI painting. I'm not sure. Abbey Road, of course, Nirvana. Quite beautifully done. Rolling Stones. Not sure who this is. There's one I don't know. Not sure who that is either. Or that. I was on a roll there. So anyways, the Emperor of Antarctica. And of course, I got a Charlie James Gallery. Here is the installation of Kayla Mattis Mimesis. Great title. Show. And I'm not sure what city that's in. Maybe LA? It looks like LA. So, epic show here from Kayla Mattis. And here is just an example. The age of man is over. I finally, I think, understand all the dolphin and killer whale references. Time of the Orca is here. And that is your show, my friend. Just on time. Thanks for joining me, and thanks for all the support. Until next time, take care.